What's happening? What's shaking? What's going on? This is Andy coming to you again from here at Andy's World of Bass. And today I'm going to do a lesson for you. For those of you that care, I know there's many of you because people ask me about slap bass all the time. I started doing it in 1983 and it's become a layer of my musicality that I think is really important. There's a lot of slap lovers out there and that do it incredibly tastefully and find ways to infuse it into all different kinds of music, including myself. You know, I've always been able to utilize slap bass and not have it be this annoying thing. You know what I mean? I think that it comes down to getting your hands together, getting your technique together to where you can use it in a tasteful way and use it sparingly and appropriately. And it's a really, really great layer of my musicality, and I think it is for a lot of people. Now, there's a bunch of slap haters out there, and, you know, that's all right, you know, whatever, you know, to each their own. But I think that if a lot of the slap haters would put in the time to get past that first initial clumsiness phase of it, they might find that it's really, really a very kind of rewarding, challenging technique to develop. You know, I think a lot of people cop out. You know, they try it a few times, it doesn't come naturally to them, they realize how hard it is and they just cop out. They don't want to put in the time. But who knows? That's just what I think. But for sure, one of the most important things about it is putting in the time and finding a way to have consistency with all of the strokes, everything that you do. So you're getting a good tone. Everything that you're doing is getting a good tone, and it's not just like harsh and just like taking your face off, you know. Having control, using economy of motion with the right hand, and not over pulling or over slapping. You just want to put enough energy onto the instrument to where it speaks in a nice way, you know. And the most probably the place where a lot of players get tangled up and they can't figure out quite how to utilize slap bass tastefully is in the pivot. Pivoting between playing with your fingers seamlessly switch between fingers to slapping, and just throw in, you know, one or two little short phrases with the slapping and then go back to the finger style. It doesn't feel like it's staying there for too long, you know what I mean? You kind of get in, you get out, nobody gets hurt. That way it's tasteful, that way it's effective. factor of the slap bass scenario is that it needs to, when you use it, it needs to fit into what's going on musically. And sometimes if we're playing like a, what would be a good example? Well, if we change style, you know, drastically change style, if we're playing a kind of a rock groove, right? And then when it comes time for the short bass feature or bass solo, all of a sudden we go to slap bass. It doesn't fit. It changes genre, it changes feel, it changes things too drastically. It's kind of like if you're playing a blues shuffle, and then you know, you go and it's time for the bass solo, and you go into some classical Bach fugue for the bass solo. It has nothing to do with what's already happening. So the important thing is to stay within the realm of what's already happening. Stay within the groove, stay within the pulse, and stay within the momentum of what's already happening. We don't want to lose the momentum. We don't want the groove to fall away. We don't want the pocket to drop out. We don't want the bottom to fall out from under us. So we need to make sure we have enough low end information. Sometimes people make the mistake of getting too into the, you know, it only takes 2 measures of that and I'm already sick of it myself. You see what I'm saying? You can't get too pop happy on the G string. That's one of the things that's going to be really annoying to people. You know, that kind of a thing. If you're just constantly doing that. But if you go, just use it sparingly. Those pops, don't go too crazy with all that G string popping. And the last thing I'll say is that if you listen to a lot of Marcus Miller, he's so tasteful. Kind of like the Eric Clapton of bass in the sense that he has a slow hand when it comes to slapping. And that slow hand stuff is really expressive. Slow hand approach, and it's not all that it's not all just completely rapid fire all the time. It's much more tasteful and it's much more digestible. And again, by not over pulling and over popping, it keeps it sounding really musical, and it's just you know, more digestible and more of a welcoming kind of enticing sound. So that's a few tips that I have for you when it comes to slapping on the bass. And I just encourage you to practice, take your time, and think about medium tempo stuff, because if you play within medium tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some subdivision in there. There's enough room for me to fit some subdivision in there, which makes it sound faster. If I'm already starting with a fast tempo, I can't even keep up that tempo, but it sounds manic, you know, and that's another factor that can make slap bass annoying, is when it sounds manic, when it doesn't sound relaxed and in the pocket and grooving. So if you think about the best places to utilize slap bass as in the medium tempo areas of songs, then you're gonna have a good chance of making it sound musical. Okay, and again, you know, just throwing a couple of things in there. Throwing a couple things in there tastefully, going back to the finger style, back and forth, throwing in a little bit of slap bass here and there. It, you know, it comes across, it goes over like gangbusters, and everybody's happy. Nobody gets mad, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't screw anything up. You know, if the way that you play slap bass is screwing up the music, you're doing it wrong. That's where it becomes wrong. If it's screwing up the music. If it's making it too thin, if you're over popping, if you don't have a good tone, if you don't have control, if you're not landing your moves, if your rhythm isn't, you know, dead on, that's where a slap bass screws up the music. If you can fit it in without screwing up the music and do it tastefully with that Marcus Miller slow hand stuff and make it sound like music, then there's nothing wrong with it, and no one will ever complain. No one will ever, you know, give you the stink eye on stage. And you know, even recording engineers will go, wow, someone who actually knows how to play slap bass tastefully. Right on. We can, you know, that's a nice thing. When it's done that way, it's totally complementary to the music. So it comes down to the old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. So practice, put in the time, get your hands together, get your timing together, get your tone together, get your technique together, and figure out how to get that pivot going where you're switching from playing with your fingers to slapping, fingers slapping, fingers slapping, and be able to seamlessly move in and out of that pivot so that the rhythm and there's no disturbance in the force when you're switching between those two techniques, and you'll be good to go. All right? Thanks for watching this video, friends. Thanks for sending me requests and asking me to give me topics to do lessons on. I hope that you find this lesson helpful, and we'll see you next time. All right, friends. Peace.